Modern historicism versus postmodernism. Two late 20th century responses to strict modernism. Okay, so good evening, everyone. Right now, what you're looking at are two buildings from the late 1900s that show how architecture started changing after modern design got too plain, too cold, too disconnected from the people, uh, lacked cultural identity. There was a bunch of reasons why architectures decided to shift from modernism to something postmodernism. So what I'm going to be doing is comparing two buildings, the Richmond Riverside and the Portland building. Both were built after architects started moving away from those modern designs, but they responded in two different ways. Okay, so here we're going to learn, why architecture moved past the strict modernism. It was just too criticized. It was criticized. They said it was too plain. They said it was too cold, too disconnected from the people. It was repetitive. Here, you see here too universal. There was technical failures, um, and basically that criticism pushed the architects into different directions. Some, looked back in time historically to kind of, use the modern historicism kind of approach, and then some push towards, technology and symbolism and expression. Okay, so this is just the why on why they switched from the strict modernism, and and it was just that criticism. So there's a lot of criticism, and you'll see here these are another one of the same two buildings that we're going to be going over. The Richmond Riverside. Now, this is considered modern historicism, and I struggled with this for a while. Well, first thing, this was built by Quinlan Terry, 1984 to 1987, and I struggled with this one because to me it looks like it's kind of modern. It seems a little cold. It seems a little, everything is uniformed, and but when you consider it was built in 1984, you kind of can grasp the concept that this they did use they did use older English architecture as inspiration when they built this in 1984. They had the brick facades. There's that order. Everything's nicely ordered and proportioned. The roof forms that are you see that those are in early English architecture, uh, and everything's kind of calm and formal and just kind of traditional. Um, Quinlan Terry designed this to feel like it belonged in the historic context rather than fighting against it. The project uses traditional materials like red and yellow brick, slate roofs, and traditional window types, and it is meant to feel like a place that could have evolved over time rather than harsh modern insertion. So, I mean, to kind of sum it up, this building is basically just saying history still matters. History still matters. He's bringing things back from that were classical and traditional to create continuity, place, elegance, and then harmony with the surroundings. So again, modern historicism is basically history reused for modern life. Ready. So the Portland building, postmodernism. Uh, Now, this was built by Michael Graves in 1982, and you can instantly see that there's bold colors, there's the strong shapes, the ornament, uh, and you can tell that hey, listen, they're shifting now from you know modern times to something a little postmodern that fits the times. This, as far as historical and social importance, This was a landmark of U.S. postmodernism. It was the first major public building of postmodernism, challenging modernist austerity and civic architecture. So the core concept here was double coding, classical references for public, the theoretical play for experts, less is bore philosophy. The motifs and stylistic elements applied ornament, oversized keystone, pilaster-like panels, stylized swags, terracotta, teal, green, cream color palette. So again, it's just the bold colors, those strong shapes, the ornament, a little bit of classical references here, and a facade that looks symbolic, not just functional. So again, they're shifting from that form is function, or the shape of something is determined by what its function to do, into something a little bit more symbolic and not just functional. As far as the interiors, they had strong color fields, graphic patterns, and bold decorative elements. So shifting from that, again, that form is function, and it's saying that buildings should not just function, they should communicate. So it's bringing a little bit of history, but in a calm, not in that calm traditional way like the Richmond Riverside does. It's using history in a more dramatic, symbolic, and expressive way. Okay, so modern historicism versus postmodernism, and here are the key differences. I think that this is important to go over because it's going to basically show how both buildings reject the strict modernism, but they do it in different ways here. So you're going to see, you saw that the Richmond Riverside was a little more traditional, a little more serious, and a little more contextual. It did use history, but it was to basically to create harmony in in its surroundings and continuity. And I struggled with that for a while. I really had to look at it, and you'll understand it more when you look at the date that it was built. So it was built in the 1980s, and once you understand that, you'll understand it's not a modern building. It is, it's they're just using uh, historical elements to create that harmony, and that's how I was able to grasp modern historicism. As far as the Portland building, this is clearly postmodern, um, just expressive, symbolic, um, and it used the history to create identity and visual impact. So I'd say that the key differences here between the modern historicism is they were using history to fit in to their surroundings, and then postmodernism, they were using history to say something. And for example, modern historicism, they had the intent was continuity, placemaking, familiar tradition, research traditional urban fabric, creates a sense of identity and belonging. Uh, the facade and form, it was an evolved streetscape, articulated base, middle, top, human scale. And then, if the postmodernism, they're bringing back the ornament, they're bringing back the color. It's symbolic. It's a little playful, to an extent, and it's just a lot more bold. So they're basically just done with strict modern architecture, and the complaining worked, and they have moved on to postmodernism. Okay, so everything here came from real sources, not just random blogs. Uh, Here, Quinlan Terry, he's got an official architecture page. Michael Graves, he has an official architecture page. Uh, there are some building project pages, and then a few other references. There was so again, you can always search for Quinlan Terry's official architecture page, and then Michael Graves for the Portland building, his official architecture page.